And anyhow, whenever you do Karma Yoga, you should be happy about it. And that also very often happens. People start with a very good intent, some social work, let's say, some project. But after a while, they start feeling unhappy about it. But they've taken some responsibilities, they are involved with some organization who start expecting certain things from them, and they start feeling bad about it. Well, I don't have to say it, I guess. I mean, the moment you start feeling bad about it, you should step out. Then that Karma Yoga period, you have to a little bit close it, and again go back and find your happiness. If it takes only 5 minutes, okay, no problem. Then you can just go continue, your work. But very often people can get stuck there. This is really not good. They will start resenting the people that they are helping. They will start having bad feelings about the whole thing. And that will again disconnect them from the self. And the only true objective of Karma Yoga is to reconnect you to the self. It is a way to a little bit like compensate for the guilt that you still have about past errors and things like that. And by doing these things, you feel good about yourself. Not good about yourself in the sense of, oh, I'm so much better than everybody else because I'm, helping everybody. Not in that way. You just feel, okay, I know I've done wrong. We all know we've done wrong. So here I'm doing a little effort to compensate for it. That feels very good. So you have to do it, but you have to feel good about it. And I've seen it too often. I've seen it in ashrams. I've seen it in all kinds of organizations. People who are like, with lots of effort and lots of unhappiness actually, continuing to do this service which, they are no longer wanting to do. It's not so easy. Like say, Father Damien, who went to an island full of lepers to help them, and then in the end also himself got the same disease and died there. It's a very nice story. I remember hearing that as a child. I thought I will become like Father Damien. And I still remember my religion teacher at the moment, she was saying, well, if you want to do that, then you really cannot have fear of death. Because, you're going to a place and you're going to die there. So I asked her, why can't I have the fear of death? She said, well, if you are walking around there having fear of death all the time, how do you think these other people will feel? How do you think these lepers will feel about it? So, Father Damien probably also sometime at night may have, been a little fearful. Sure, after seeing everything and, it's not a very beautiful, process. Sure. But if that fear would really have overtaken him, then his presence there would not have been a blessing. It would have been a big burden, because he would have started acting like in a weird way towards everybody and making everybody feel very unhappy. So, in that way, understand what you can do and what you cannot do. You can't do just anything like that. You cannot just set aside your own ego so easily. Some things are there you have to respect also, which require time. You have to be able to grow. You cannot just do anything just like that. And if you doubt it, well, just try. But be ready to step out when you feel, oh, now it's too much.
If you want to do something good and you start with a project and it goes well, how can you do something good and then after a while it doesn't feel good anymore?
Yes, well, because it's starting to require too much of you. Maybe for a time you were a little bit bored, didn't have so much else to do, and so you start getting involved with it and actually liking it, and okay, very nice. And then at some point, maybe you get a new girlfriend. And then you have a new girlfriend, you want to spend time with the girlfriend, but all the time that project will still be there and people will start calling you, why are you not coming and you have not delivered this, or, so you may feel like, oh, now I don't like it anymore, I want to do something else. So these things change. So you have to be a little bit aware of it and not get stuck in anything like that. That would be very negative. You have to understand that you are still like growing, and definitely doing these things is very good, but also don't get stuck there. Hmm. Hmm.
And there are things, the idea like when you don't like it, somehow it's facing it to go through because it's your ego, what is your opinion about it?
Well, sure, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to stop doing it from the first unhappiness that you feel. Because feeling a little bit unhappy after working all day for others and getting nothing for yourself is a confrontation. So yes, you can face this confrontation, you can, work with it and grow there. But you have to be able to do that and be happy about it most of the time. If you can do that, if you are actually unhappy most of the time, then you are not ready to do this much karma yoga. And I have seen it too often in places like that. People are there, they're kind of stuck in the idea that they have to do that, but it's not helping them any further. Quite on the contrary, it's making them more and more unhappy, and from this unhappiness a lot of other problems come. And of course, if you can combine it like they do with bhakti, with a lot of love, like group activities, things that are very much like satisfying the heart, satisfying the ego, satisfying togetherness and all these things, then it can be more easy. But in some cases, and especially in organizations here in the West, where such attention is not put, where at some point you are entering some organization because you think they are doing the right thing, and you take some responsibility there, and that's all there is. And after a while, this is starting to conflict with your own personality in such a way that you can't escape it. So the only thing I really want to say is, if you are unhappy about it for more than a month, please stop. That's what I'm saying. Just to give like a little idea, but of course it's your own choice. And as I said, suffering is very good. It only brings you to the self, so nothing wrong. But my advice there is that also because such unhappiness is the most unhealthy thing. It will kill you. You will become ill. Modern science more and more is starting to discovering this, that so many illnesses actually have unhappiness as a cause of it. And especially, not 5 minutes of unhappiness, not even 1 hour of unhappiness, but prolonged unhappiness, days of unhappiness, weeks of unhappiness. That is killing you. Well, killing yourself is not dharma. You should not do that like in the name of the Lord. So you have to take care of number one first. If you are not all right, physically, mentally, emotionally, then that is your first thing. That is what you have to take care for, and not continue this work which apparently you are not able to do anymore. And I say it because at some moment in yoga, your heart will be so open that really you have to kind of make a big effort to take care of yourself, to remember to eat, to remember to take care of your health, to remember to have a little also private time, to have a little, fun also. You also need fun. This body needs fun. Laughter is very important. Laughter is very important for your health. It brings about all kinds of things. It's juice, like rasa. So, I definitely don't want to say anything wrong about Karma Yoga. Don't misunderstand. Karma Yoga is very good, very important, very big help for many people, especially those who are more like action-oriented by nature. It's very good because then they are not acting for themselves, but they are acting for something else. Very good, but don't go too far. That's all that I want to say. In any case, you cannot really help anybody. That is the truth. And why can't you really help anybody? Because there's really no problem. The whole thing is an illusion. The only suffering which is real is the illusion of suffering. The suffering itself does not exist. But for the person who feels that he or she is suffering, that feeling exists. That's the only way in which suffering has some existence. But so, when you help, and that is also like an experience you will have, when you start being a helper, when you start doing karma yoga, when you start really helping people, that when you remove one problem, very soon they will come with the next problem. And then you remove also that problem, and then a couple of days later they will bring you another problem. Same people. The problem is not in those problems. The problem is in those people looking for problems. Yes? So, the suffering is only of the non-self. If you can remove this non-self, or at least help themselves to remove this non-self, to see this non-self, to get to know the self, then you will truly help them. That's the only real help that you can give. For that also, you need happiness. If I would be giving the class, any of these classes, and give you the feeling that I am feeling very bad, you would all run away, right? So, if you want to help, you have to teach. Whether in some official way or some unofficial way as two friends or whatever, in whatever situation, but that is the true help that you can give. And then it is often also said, sometimes when people are in problem, first you help them a little bit, like give them a little food and shelter and things like that, and then you teach them. Many spiritual organizations actually work like that. No? And it's the right way. Okay, if somebody is standing there very hungry, you're not going to talk about the self. You're going to look in your fridge and see what you can give. But once that basic need is met, then if you are going to keep standing there and see what more help is needed, then the desires are going to come out. And where in the beginning maybe you have been giving the poor people food and blankets and shoes and other things they really need, after a while they start asking for color TVs and the latest mobile phones. And you can't blame them. I don't blame them, but you have to ask yourself, is that what I want to do? So, in that way, Karma Yoga also has its limits, and the best Karma Yoga is to teach. To give that knowledge to them as you can, in your own way, in your own words, and that will truly help them. Because then whatever problem comes, it's not really a big problem, and you can remain happy despite this problem. That is yoga. I can just tell you, if you can drop this resistance to doing the right thing, it's a great liberation. It feels like, if you look at it, like you are becoming more limited somehow, less free, and it will really feel like that sometimes. Sometimes you might even curse yoga, curse your teacher for bringing you into a situation where you no longer can be selfish, where it becomes more and more hard to be selfish. But truly, if you can let go of that selfishness, you will feel better than ever. It's really truly a liberation. So, in that way, Dharma is important, and how to do it, what to do, that is really up to you. Feel in your heart. There are some general things known in Vedic scripture like non-violence, non-stealing, straightforwardness, forgiveness. I can go on like that for a long time about many very good things. But that's just like, okay, interesting. Like when we have the class on yamas and niyamas. Yamas and niyamas are rules of conduct for sadhus. So then, okay, you can see that whenever you are making that choice, that those rules can be there to give you an idea. But even there, they will have to make up their own mind about it every time. They have to make a choice. That will always remain like that. And it is also quite clear in Vedic scripture. I am not saying that from like Hindu society as it exists today, there is no like general guidelines coming. Of course, they are trying to give people some general guidelines, and they will say don't lie and don't steal and don't kill and don't do all these things. It's quite obvious, like everywhere that happens. But if you really look into the scripture, there you will very clearly see that there is no one general rule. There's only your heart, your own choice that you make, and you make it not because like you think you have to be a good person. You make it because you know it's your highway to happiness. It's part of, your objective. It is not something you have to do because you are told to do, or because you might otherwise end up in hell. Although, of course, that part is a little bit true if you just see hell as basic unhappiness. So then, yes, definitely, if you don't follow Dharma, you end up in hell. So, but, well, I don't know if there's any more questions about it.
Can you explain in short the connection between that and the importance of being happy?
Well, that's very easy actually. Your happiness, if it doesn't come from things like chocolate ice cream and outside of you, but the happiness that comes from inside of you will be blocked if you go against your feeling of right and wrong. Because that feeling of right and wrong comes in connection with your happiness, with the self, with your heart, with your true being. So, if you are not true to your heart, then you are not true to your own happiness. That's basically it, to the source of your happiness. Not because this happiness cares. The self does not care about right or wrong. The self meets the worst criminal in the world and says, oh. That is all the self does. Self is like that. But you, in contact with the self, from your duality, from your question, from should I do this or that, and you feel there the answer will come quite clearly, because the self is directly connected to everything. So it knows the relationship between everything, so there it can find the harmony within everything, and from there it will give you the answer. So, Yes, but there is always a moment where you don't think. Unfortunately, in most people it lasts maybe less than a second. But it's always there. You have this question, and the first thing is, and then your desires, your fears, whatever may take you elsewhere. But you know. You always know. Most people, they don't know that they know. But they know. Well, as I said, even the person in the world who thinks the most, still, very often does not think for a very short moment. Split second. And that question comes, that is the first thing you do. You stop. It's like when you have to walk on some very narrow thing First thing you do is you hold your breath. The same thing. You come for a choice, you don't know what to do, and then the whole process starts. But that first moment is where you have the connection to your heart, and you know perfectly well. Even when it's not about like right or wrong in a moral way. Even when it's just about what would be best for me, then also same way. Should I go this way or should I go that way to reach the market, the quickest? But somehow you lose that and maybe then you go the wrong way because you think, but yeah, it looks like more light up there or more sound over there. Or,
How can you make a difference between, how can you know that what your heart is thinking, what your mind is thinking?
by not thinking. And that is difficult, I understand, but it is not so difficult for a second. It is not so difficult for 2 seconds. It becomes a little bit more difficult for 3 seconds. You just hold the thought, like you have the question, you just hold the thought for like 1 second or 2 seconds, and then you let go of that control and you see what comes. And the right choice will come. The first thought that will then come will be right. Not whatever you think afterwards, but the first thing that comes will be right. But it's not even that complicated. That's like technique which you could use, but actually, I'm telling you, you know always in your heart whether your choice is right or wrong, and when you are then making the wrong choice, continuing on that path, you know. I'm telling you. Because you feel it, you know it, but you still find excuses to do it. And continuously you are finding these excuses to fight that feeling of unhappiness that is there because you know you are making the wrong choice. So stopping mind can help, like if you are really confused about it, but even that is just like trying to find an excuse because you are not confused about it. You are creating confusion about it, but you are not confused about it. In your heart you know, in your feeling you know.
And what if your connection to your heart is disturbed by serious past traumatic experiences? So you always follow the anxious path?
Well, everybody's heart is disturbed by a serious traumatic experience of the past. If those would not be there, nobody would be having any problem. So, it's the same for everybody, you just try. And don't look back. Meaning, don't hold on to that past, but also if you see yourself making mistakes that kind of belong to your past because of your attachment to the past, also, don't get stuck to that, just try. Just move forward. Just try to do it. And it's not the only thing, fortunately, which will help you to get closer to your heart. There are many things that can help you closer to your heart. That's what yoga is about. So, you are here, means you understand that. That's enough. Once you are on the path, you're on the path. And you can't escape it. And usually when people have had, like, relatively to other people, a really difficult past, then the beginning is more difficult. But once they have passed that, then it becomes more easy because they have a lot more experience. If you are suffering, you are not only, like, as I said, getting a tendency to turn from the non-self to the self, but you're also getting quite a good exercise in mind control. You have no choice. If you're in a really difficult situation, you need some mind control, or you go like crazy mad or unhappy up to a point that it's not livable. So somehow you have more mind control than people who don't have those experiences. So once you get a little bit like past those first boundaries, then it becomes really more easy because you already have more mind control. So don't compare yourself to anybody in that way.
It's not about comparing, it's about
What to do with it? Yeah, well, many things are there. I mean, that's like many classes, but if you can do it, then mantra meditation is probably like the best thing to try. And well, on YouTube also you have a class that I've given on Gayatri Mantra meditation. But many other things are there. You have to try and feel what works for you. And asana may work for you, and pranayama may work for you, and some meditation may work for you. And if mantra meditation inside does not yet work, you can do mantra meditation like chanting outside, whatever works, whatever makes you feel more calm, more happy, more in your center. And then do as much as possible. And that's also like what makes it easier for a person who had a difficult time. They are more motivated. People who have very little problems, they are not so motivated to sit very long time to do a lot of sadhana.
It was my question because you said in the self there is no suffering, but suffering is a very good thing.
Because the suffering is only of the non-self, meaning of the ego, of your false identity. So after a while, then you become a little tired of this false identity and try to turn towards reality. So in that way, suffering always in the end brings you back. You can try to run as far away from the self as possible, but the further you go, the more it will hurt. So your feeling, your desire to feel good again will bring you back. And in that way, you can dance around the self as much as you want, but the easiest thing is just to sit on it. It's quite simple. We all say, I want happiness. The answer is, drop the I, forget what you want, and you have it.